Hello, 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 mail time. What's up, everybody? It's your man Pots and Pans. Welcome back to another episode of Real Chef Tips. Today I am extremely excited because we're gonna have our first recipe today. Over the last few weeks, I've just been laying down some foundational things to get you guys started, but now I want to start easing on in, bringing you some recipes. And we're still gonna keep it pretty simple. Today's recipe only has 2 ingredients. I figured for our first recipe, I wouldn't give you anything that would be divisive. Some people are picky, some people are not. So unless you're vegan, you're gonna love this recipe because it tastes like butter. Why does it taste like butter? It basically is. There's 2 ingredients, water and butter. Today we're gonna be going over a very classic French sauce known as a beurre Monte. A beurre Monte, or what can be translated to mounted butter. Why are the French always trying to fuck everything? In my opinion, this recipe is the best way to make you look like an expert level cook, even if you just started yesterday. It's deceptively refined for only having 2 ingredients and really doesn't take a lot of time to do at all. It's cheap, it's glossy, it's thick and flavorful. It's the Cardi B of lardy ghee. It's beurre Monte. Now, as I mentioned, I really wanted today's recipe to be as versatile as possible, and in my opinion, I think beurre Monte, do I really have to keep saying it like that? I think beurre Monte is the perfect application for nearly every food and every dish. So you could basically use it for every step in the cooking process. You can add it to already cooked vegetables right before plating and season it to taste. You can poach salmon, or any fish really for that matter, or shellfish, or my favorite, you can actually take your meat and rest it in a buttery bath of beurre Monte. Back in the day, one of my old chefs used to make us label beurre Monte over our meats and finish them in the oven. It was fucking heavenly. That fatty, rich layer of sauce was actually a great heat conductor, so it cooked evenly. It was just obviously keeping it super, super moist. Exquisite. Now, if you're transferring your meat from a grill, let's say, you can do that no problem. Coat it, toss it in the oven, no big deal. But if you were just pan searing it, maybe you want to take a second and think about what you're doing. Because if you just ladle the sauce right into the hot pan, it's going to separate, it's going to break, and it's also going to burn. Let your pan cool down for a little bit and then throw it in. You could also transfer it to another pan, but in general we don't want to do that because all the flavor from the cooking process is now left in the first pan. Stupid. And that's when the real magic would happen. We wouldn't just pull the steak out and let it sit on our countertop and rest as normally we would do. If you don't know why we should rest meat, you really don't know much about cooking, do you? We'll get to that in another episode. Resting is very important for various reasons, but we would take the meat out, we would place it in this buttery bath of amazing goodness, and then this buttery bubble bath of goodness not only added extra taste, but the weight of the fat helps keep the juices in. So as it's resting, it stays nice, juicy, flavorful. At the same time, the room temperature nature of that fatty sauce actually helps reduce the temperature of the meat very quickly, which could be anywhere from 120 to 150 if you're a nightmare and you like to eat leather. But it reduces the temperature of the meat, again, making it nice and fucking juicy. This is an absolutely perfect scenario all around because meats continue to cook after you remove them from the oven. It's called carryover cooking. Another episode. So, before we go any further, how do we make beurre Monte? First, we have to consider what is butter. It's 3 things. It's butter fat, milk solids, and water. Now, most of us understand that water and fat are basically like trans activists at a Trump rally. They simply don't mix. My point is, water and fat are cut from a different cloth. Most of us see butter in the form that we buy it in a store, and it's like that because it was churned properly and then it was refrigerated. But we all know that once you melt butter, it separates. So the question is, how do we get the flavor of pure butter into a velvety, rich, emulsified sauce? Instead of melting the butter straight up, what we do is we take a little bit of cold water, we heat it up, we add the cold butter in slowly and surely, whisking it the entire time over moderate heat. That is emulsification. We're combining the water molecules and the fat molecules together. I don't need to get into it because you simply don't need to know that. I'm not a doctor, and most likely you're not either. You're watching a YouTube channel with a guy who calls himself Pots and Pans. As mentioned earlier, the magical thing about this whole recipe is you only need 2 ingredients. 1 tablespoon of water, or 10 grams if you're using a scale like I told you to, a 1/4 pound of butter, or you could use up to 2 pounds or 3. The point is you only really need a little bit of water to get that emulsification going. First, add 10 grams of water to a small saucepan. Turn the heat on high until the water boils and then reduce the heat to low. This will happen very fast, so be ready, be organized, and don't be a nightmare. Begin whisking in these cold pads of butter one by one in order to get the proper emulsion. Don't be afraid to get one of your hands messy. Yes, chop up the pads of butter into small little squares, but you can actually use one hand to break them off very slowly in the beginning. You want to start slow in the beginning or you're not going to get that proper emulsified sauce. Do not make both of your hands messy with the butter. Don't be a nightmare. Once you have the emulsion, you can start adding bigger pieces a little bit faster while maintaining that low medium heat to keep the sauce from breaking. It's important to know that while you're making the sauce, or if it's finished and you're just holding it on the side, you have to avoid temperature extremes or the sauce will break. Now this is the traditional way of making a beurre Monte, but an even faster and more efficient way to get her done. Get it? Butter joke. Tough crowd. The most fast, efficient, and easy way to do it is to actually use one of these, the stick blender. By far one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. From there, the only thing left to do is season to taste with salt, maybe pepper. Spice it up, my gnocchis. So once you're finished with the sauce, you could either use it immediately and that's it, or you can hold it off to the side. Again, avoid these temperature extremes. You can use a double boiler if you have room on the back of your stove, or my favorite, 1 second, a thermos. It's perfect. Holds your coffee all day nice and hot, doesn't it? You can do the same thing for a butter sauce or hollandaise, anything, which is also another butter sauce. But you get the point. This is the perfect apparatus that will stay good all day long. Now, if the recipe is small or you're basically just like cooking for yourself, it might not make sense to go the extra mile and make a beurre Monte. Yes, it's easy, but so is melting whole butter. If you're using something for higher qualities, you're prepping for like a whole meal for your family or friends and loved ones, or you got a date, you're trying to shoplift that pootie, beurre Monte will definitely deliver. I hope you guys really like this recipe. It's super simple, but for beginners, it just gives you more reps at practicing butter sauce emulsification or emulsification in general. Practice this multiple times until you've mastered it, and then you can start to work your way into more complicated butter sauces like a hollandaise, which I will definitely cover in the future. And for that same reason, if you're trying to build your skills, I would really recommend that you use the whisk first. You could always cheat, you could always use the hand blender or throw this in a Vitamix. It all works. It's definitely way less of a hassle, but you want to build those skills. In the beginning, you're probably gonna fuck a few up, you're gonna break them, you have to figure out why you broke them and how to bring it back, which I will also make another video about. But practice with small amounts of ingredients by yourself. Nobody cares if you fuck it up. You wasted 10 cents on a little bit of butter. This gets you in the process of troubleshooting. Throw it away, start over, learn what you did wrong, move on. As always, feel free to get creative here. Don't rely on any recipes, no matter how large or how small. Every time you make this, feel free to add anything to it, not just salt or pepper, but lemon or any hot sauce or ground spices. You can really do a lot with just this as a base sauce. If you have extra, simply just throw it in your fridge and then tomorrow you can remelt it, and what do you know? Back to butter. You could also re-clarify it and make it into ghee, but that's another complicated episode chef's gonna have to make. That is gonna be all for today's episode. Once again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had much success with this recipe. Like always, do the things. Like, comment, subscribe, share with friends. We all know what to do. Hit the bell notification. Ask me any questions if you have them. This isn't very complicated, but any questions. I'm here to help you. As always, I don't like saying goodbye, so I'm just gonna say thank you. Love and peace, my gnocchis. Chef out.